You know what time it is when you see me. You know what time it is.
Oh, that's it! Again. Darius the Destroyer, welcome home! You're not getting up from that type of power.
Get that crack pipe out of your fucking mouths. Bitcoin is currently at $91,326. I don't look at the news. I don't look at what's going on, Venezuela, Israel. I don't give a damn. It doesn't affect this happening here. I know many influencers and YouTubers are now macro experts and geopolitical experts now. They've abandoned the charts and now they're just showing you M2 supply and whatever and Venezuela and Israel and Somalia, and they're showing you everything but the charts. We've covered this many times on my channel. We're doing the same thing that we've done right over here. I never lied to you. This is exactly the same pattern. Most marketers are telling you we're going lower. I said we're closing above the 100-day moving average. I know most of you struggle with basic maths. So this is going to be above this area for roughly 11 weeks. 11 weeks, so count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're 8 weeks into this. I did say Q1 2026 we're going to see lower prices, just like we done right over here. We held above the golden support right over here for roughly 1 or 2 weeks, and then we started to head downwards. A lot of marketers are busy talking about some CME gap around here. I don't really give a fuck about that. What I am mostly interested in is the CME gap right over here, ladies and gentlemen. Let me zoom in so you can see this. We have a gap from 116,000 and some change all the way to 117,000 US dollars. A lot of bulltards are going to call for higher prices. Now, we don't have to fill the CME gaps. In the previous cycle, we never filled the CME gap. There was a CME gap in the previous cycle. Now look very closely right over here, between 35,000 and 34,000 US dollars. It wasn't until 536 days later that we filled this CME gap in the previous cycle. Now the real battle is at 100k. Right now there's like maybe 70% of participants that are still bullish. They're still calling for a super cycle, 5-year debt rollover. They're calling for higher prices. They're calling for 200k. They're calling for whatever prices. Now those participants will continue irrespective of the price breaking down, irrespective of market structure. They're going to continue to call for a bull market until we're finally at the bottom of the bear market. And then, ladies and gentlemen, they call for a bear market.
You went full retard, man. Never go full retard. You don't buy that? That's Sean Penn, 2001, I am Sam. Remember? Went full retard. Went home empty-handed.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. I know many bulltards are going to call for the DXY to break down to these lower levels. Whatever reason it may be, I really don't give a fuck, but they're going to give some sort of narrative. Now remember, price action is king and narrative always follows price. This, ladies and gentlemen, is going to head up higher. Now, I don't say this just for fun, ladies and gentlemen. I said this many times. We've formed a double bottom and we're heading up higher. I've shown this before, and this is the death cross. Now, these indicators, you can use it pretty much on almost any chart. We formed a death cross in July 2025. Contrary to what people think, the death cross is actually a bottoming signal. We formed a death cross right over here in January 2021, just before the crypto bear market. Double bottom right over here, ladies and gentlemen, and we headed up higher. We formed another death cross on March the 18th. This was the absolute bottom, and the dollar went up. Crypto was in a brutal bear market during that time. May 2011, we formed a death cross, ladies and gentlemen, mark the bottom. This is the reason why I keep on telling you that the dollar has bottomed. We're heading up higher. So what does that mean for your portfolio? I know some of you bulltards don't give a fuck about the DXY, but I know you care about dominance. The orange chart is Bitcoin and the blue chart is dominance. And as you can see, every time dominance is around 2%, 3%, that means Bitcoin is at elevated prices. Crypto in general is at elevated prices. We have bottomed for dominance. We have bottomed. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time in this cycle that we've formed a higher high. If you look at this chart, I'm going to get rid of all the rest. How does this chart look like? Be honest. Be very honest with yourselves. How does this chart look? I know some of you don't like me. Yeah, I know. I can see from the comments, I get so much abuse. I get it. And some of you really, really dislike me. But I'm not here to make friends, guys. I'm really not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. Now, if you want to make some money, press that like button, subscribe, and join our private members. Every single bear market in crypto history happened in midterm elections. Always happened. We had it in 2014, we had it in 2018, 2022, and now it's the beginning of midterms, 2026. I spoke about this a long time ago. I said 2026 will be a bear market. We're in 2026, it's already setting up for a bear market. If you look very closely, even the S&P 500 was most of the time struggling during that time. Yeah, 9 out of 10 times it was actually going downwards. Let's have a look at unemployment. And unemployment in December, ladies and gentlemen, came below expectations by 4.4%. The consensus was 4.5%. We spoke about this in the previous episode. Unemployment is still edging up higher, but stocks are the last to get the memo. Bitcoin sees it first. It sniffs out weakness in the economy. Ethereum likewise sniffs out weakness in the economy. We are near this stage where it goes parabolic. I'm adamant about this. Very, very adamant that unemployment is heading to 6 to 7% in 2025, ladies and gentlemen. We are at that stage where it goes parabolic. Some of you watching this will lose your jobs. Unfortunately, this is the cycle we're in. We're at that stage where everything breaks. This is the unemployment chart. Every time the unemployment rate crosses its 36 moving day average, it's a recession. And on the contrary, every time the unemployment rate crosses its 36-month moving average from above, it means we are in a period of expansion. Let me tell you this, a lot of bulltards, a lot of marketers, a lot of grifters, scammers, whatever you want to call them in this space, they're telling you just wait until we get to extreme greed, then start selling your bags. Ladies and gentlemen, during a bear market, we don't see extreme greed. We don't even see greed. The previous cycle, we never saw greed until 3 years later, ladies and gentlemen. From November 2021 all the way till April 2023. In this bear market, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to see extreme greed or close to greed until 2028. Ethereum is doing the same thing that we've done over here. Okay, same thing right over here. We got to 3,700, 3,500. That's what we're going to do again. Head to 3,500 to around 3,700. We've been covering this for a long time. A lot of folks were telling you that it's going to go lower. A lot of marketers were telling you it's going lower. I did say this is a good period to buy the dip. I was right. There are some false messiahs here. There are some false prophets here. And we're going to find out which one is telling the truth and which one is telling a lie. We have the Russell 2000. The Russell 2000 has yet again made all-time new highs. Now, we do know on this channel, Ethereum is closely correlated to the Russell 2000. However, in my opinion, this is a false prophet. It's lying. Let's go through some of your good coins. Tau is going to fill the wick. I did say this many times. It's heading to $140. Everything else is noise. Casper has been in a bear market. You see that wick? You see this wick. I'm not lying. Look at this wick. It's going to fill the wick to sub a penny. Some of you bulltards loved Aave at $400. Well, you should definitely love it even more at $79. We have the crowd favorite, ladies and gentlemen, the crowd favorite. If you loved Sue at $5, ladies and gentlemen, you're gonna love it at 56 cents. This is the crowd favorite. Give it a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Before I leave, let me teach you something. You buy winners. This is a winner. Tron, hate it or love it, this is a winner. Look at this chart, amazing. Look at this chart. You buy winners. I'll show you more. You buy winners, ladies and gentlemen. You don't buy losers. Look at this chart. Since inception, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like this. You buy fucking winners. If you're not a winner, get the fuck out of my channel. Some of you are the definition of yesterday. You're playing the same thing that you done the last cycle, expecting the same results. Ladies and gentlemen, every single cycle is completely different. These coins in the top 50, you don't even recognize them. Have you ever heard of any of these coins? They're not here no more. But many participants, many influencers were fooled thinking that they should DCA into these coins. Ladies and gentlemen, you do not DCA down into these coins. You buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. And in a later stage, when we're in mania, when we're in animal spirits, then you buy whatever dog shit you want to buy. You never ever go full retard.